Welcome to episode 2 of Football Club Chairman, Hard Truth by Darren McAnthony. I released episode 1 last week. Thought I'd do some of this podcast stuff while I'm in isolation here in Orlando, Florida. It was great. It's on all platforms now, Spotify, iTunes, obviously here at anchor.fm. So for those of you who listened last week, much appreciated for your support. Coming up in episode 2, we're going to talk about, I'm going to just cover off these subjects right now so in advance so you know whether or not this is of interest to you, if you're going to continue listening. Hope you do. We're going to cover the decision by the FA to void all the non-league various steps today. It's affected a lot of clubs, a lot of players. Ladies football's also be cancelled and voided. We're going to talk about player wage deferments, big subject today. We're going to talk about the EFL and the Premier League. More solutions I propose to help with the financial issues that we're currently suffering from. We're going to suffer until football's back. We're going to talk about life during this pandemic, the coronavirus. We're going to talk about those who are calm. We're going to talk about those who are panic. You know, everyone's in kind of two camps. It's Armageddon. We'll get through this. So we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about the rules out there at the moment for people who are in isolation and the idiots who haven't followed them. We're going to talk about when we can get back playing, even if it's behind closed doors, and how would that work. We're going to talk about what are you doing indoors right now? Tell you with your kids. What are you doing with your wives and partners and whatever else? We're going to talk about life after the virus, because we all know life will resume and life will go on and we'll defeat this bastard. So lots to talk about. We're going to go to an ad break. I just wanted to give you a quick summary of the upcoming episode, and hopefully you're enjoying listening. You're going to enjoy listening. And I'm getting questions, obviously, on Twitter and social media platforms. So I'm going to cover those as well with a few direct and hard answers. So enjoy the show today. Thank you. Welcome back to episode 2 of Football Club Chairman, The Hard Truth. Should be The Hard Fucking Truth by Darren McAnthony. Pardon the language for those listening. So let's talk about the decision today by the FA, where all non-league football clubs, their seasons, results up till now, everything's been voided. I'm absolutely shocked that this decision has been come to so quickly. I understand there are those in the camp that want to argue life is more important than football. I get all of that. You're absolutely correct. We don't want to lose any lives to this, and we can get into that in a bit more detail as the show goes on. But the reality is that we will defeat the virus. We will get back to work. Life will go on. Sport will resume, which is also a business and a big part of millions of people's lives. And for the people who work for these football clubs, for the people who play for these football clubs, the people who put money into these football clubs to have got to a point where they're 9-10 games away from finishing their season, for this to happen, this decision to be taken on, March the 26th today, I'm just flabbergasted. I have no idea where that's come from, whether that's a knee-jerk reaction by the FA. I don't know who voted for it, how they came to that decision. I can read a bit more up, but I've just seen the headline. I'm gutted for you out there. I'm gutted out there for you players, female and male. I'm gutted for the managers, the coaches, the staff, the owners who've played millions into their clubs to get them to a point. The Barrows of the world, clubs lower down, who I think some had already won promotion this late in the season, and that's now completely wiped out. You're already dealing with the financial effects of this horrible virus and the current isolation and lockdown, and now you're being told everything you've done over the last 9 or 10 months is basically in the toilet. And for me, that decision was too quick, too harsh. We are, a week now, particularly over here in the States. We're starting to isolate in Florida, but we're not even at the end of March. There's still time to go. Who knows what's happening in the next 3 or 4 weeks? But I know one thing's for sure. We can't be isolated forever. This virus won't keep attacking people like it's doing at the moment with the mortality rates. And the more testing that happens, you'll see the mortality rate drop. And the statistics will be out there, whether it's going to be 1%, 2%, less than that, 0.5% of people, unfortunately, who are going to pass away from this horrible virus until they get a vaccine. But to call time on a season right now, when we're early in this process, we're early right now in the isolation process, particularly in England, I just feel like they're jumping the gun. What happens in 4 weeks' time? And let's just say, for some reason, they have a vaccine. Let's say medication they're currently using stems the flow. Let's say they test a lot more people. Let's say there's 1 million people tested in the UK. And let's say from the testing, because there's probably a lot more people infected than the current numbers are showing. And let's just say that the people basically, the mortality rate drops down to 0.1% or 0.2%. Does that mean sport stops? Does that mean life stops? Does that mean you don't go to work? Does that mean we stay indoors? I know that sounds incredibly horrible to say it, but somebody has to say it, and lots of people are thinking it. We know who are the most vulnerable. We're doing our best to look after them. We know people who have conditions, certain age groups are most vulnerable statistically, and that's what we're seeing, and that's what we're listening to from whether it's the World Health Organization or our governments. I'm just saying that come May, let's just say we're at a point where isolation is lifted. Life is starting to go back to normal. The EFL, the Premier League, come up with a plan, for example, to play games behind closed doors and get their season finished, or even play with crowds. Who knows where we're going to be in May or June? Let's just say that happens. What are we going to say to all the non-league clubs? What are we going to say to all the, the women's football clubs? How are we going to justify? How's the FA going to justify this decision made today? And why did the decision need to be made right now? That's what I don't understand. So I don't know if somebody out there has reasons, logic to it. I'd love to hear it. But for now, I just think it's jumping the gun. I might be proven in time I'm wrong and they're right. But I just don't understand why that decision has to be made. And particularly right now, kicking people in the cojones right now while they're down. Everyone's down at the moment. Very few people are up. And even the most positive of people are down. Why give them a kick in the bollocks right now, particularly if they work for those clubs? They're involved with it's added stress. It's what I keep saying about the headlines. Even the EFL sent a little update today and they said, don't believe what's been written in a lot of the press headlines. It's speculation. That's why I hate the stuff that's out there and, the Richard Keys of the world who's putting on Twitter and void the season and cancel football and this and that. I understand. It's horrible seeing what's going on in hospitals. It's horrible seeing the news right now at the moment. And our focus has got to be on, for me, following the isolation rules, stemming the spread, making sure that those at the front lines, the workers, particularly the NHS in the UK, the hospital workers in America, get all the tools necessary to defeat this bastard, making sure they have the ventilators, the equipment, the space, and that everyone with a broken toenail is not in there packing emergency rooms. It's the people who really need it right now, need our support. So I totally get, and we've got to take this serious. We're going to talk about that in a minute, because you see some of the younger people out there in particular not taking this serious. But all I'm saying is if we give them the support and we do the testing, and suddenly the medications that are being used all over the world start working, obviously they're saying a solution, a cure will take 6 to 12 months, and that's brilliant, and we love it sooner. But if they do stem it and life does go back to normal, how can we look these people in the eyes who work at these football clubs and we've just absolutely destroyed everything they've worked for 9-10 months? So that's how I feel about it. I know people will strongly disagree with me. I know people will throw the life is more important argument, and I'm on that side. But I think you can have both sides of that argument. I think you can agree life is important, and I think you can agree what's also important are people's livelihoods. What's also important for people's mental state of mind is making sure they have houses and jobs and employment and money in the bank and life after this virus. And if we take that away from them, what's the effect on people? So we've got to look at both sides of this argument. And I'm definitely in that camp that I think we're going to beat this bastard. I think we're going to stem the flow. I think the more testing, the more vaccines, the more medication. And I think life will go back to normal. And I'm not talking about years. I'm talking about weeks and months. So I'm of that positive mindset at the moment. I'm in that camp. I'm going to stay in that camp because I have to believe. I don't want to just watch the news and listen to every doom monger out there say, this is it. Life is going to be shut down as we know it. I'm not there, and I don't want to be there. So I'm gutted for everyone involved. And I'd like to send out my love and support to all those football clubs that have had this decision made today and their aspirations and hopes taken away from them. It's truly devastating. It's truly gutting. I pray the EFL, the Premier League, and the rest of football don't make such a hasty decision. I don't think they will. I think we're working on solutions. I think we'll come up with the right solutions, and I think we'll do the right thing for the integrity of our game, for the mental state of mind of all our members and all the people involved in football, including the millions of fans out there. And right now, the millions of fans need hope. And all those football clubs today who've got millions of fans in non-league, their hope's just been absolutely taken away from them as regards to this season. So truly gutted. So that's my feeling on the non-league decision and to void ladies football and non-league football today. In the next segment, we're going to talk about player wages. And obviously, you've seen my Twitter account today. A journalist contacted our press officer because somebody leaked to them that we were talking about deferring players' wages. So I'm going to get into that in a little bit now, just after this break. Thank you. Welcome back. So now we're going to talk about players' wages and wage deferments, because obviously it's a subject that's been brought to the media attention. Birmingham a few days ago suggested to their players certain deferred amounts. And now I see Leeds United, and congratulations to them on having an unbelievable staff and players who've agreed to have a deferment on a certain amount of wages to ensure their 200-300 staff stay in work, stay employed. And, you know, we often talk about football and the footballers earning the big money. We forget about the other people involved in football. They don't earn the kind of money these players do. You're talking about people on 18, 19, 20, 22, 23 grand a year out there. You know, one missed paycheck means losing your home, not being able to put food in the fridge. So we have to look at this and we have to say to ourselves, what's the right thing to do? And I know the EFL is talking to the PFA. I know that there'll be some sort of a deal done there, and there will be a deferment, in my opinion. It has to happen while the game is suspended. If we're back playing in a month or in 6 weeks or in 8 weeks and it's all systems go, we're back in business. But at the moment, every club, it's a sensible thing to do. They need to have those conversations with their players. So today, Phil Adlam, my press officer, contacted me and said a certain reporter had approached him on Twitter. They were writing a story that we'd asked our players to take a 50% deferment on their wages. I put out a thread on Twitter straight away because I like to be transparent. Here's what happened. Over the weekend, I had a conversation with the gaffer, and I said, look, Gaff, I don't lose any employees, and we're okay now. Everyone's getting paid at the end of March, and we want to get through until June for when we think football is going to start again. How would the players feel about deferring 50% of their wages? They get paid really well. Even 50% less, they're still going to be paid really well. I think there's mortgage relief out there for people. No one's going to lose their homes. No player's going to go hungry. Can you broach it with the lads? Can you speak to all 30 of them? Have a conversation. I'm not enforcing it. I'm not saying it's happening. I just wanted to gauge their thoughts on it and explain to them the ramifications that, you know, on the rest of our staff at the football club if maybe we don't do this, if we have to. So right now we're not doing it. But let's say in 3 weeks we have to, because this is going on a bit longer and we're not back maybe until July. It's a long time without ticket money. It's a long time without TV money, sponsorships. Certain people are not paying us because obviously it's a tough time. And we understand that, and we're trying as best we can to work on things like that so we can get some income into the football club. Our fans are buying season tickets. We implore them to keep doing so because there will be a next season as well as finishing this season. So I said, gauge it with the players, speak to the lads, let me know what the response is like. He came back to me, he spoke to all 30 players. It was a magnificent response. Most were, 99% were in agreement. A couple had a couple of questions and wanted to speak to obviously their agents, PFA, but overall they understood. Most importantly, they obviously all wanted to know, will we get paid? Of course, footballers will get paid. When it comes to whether it's administration, bankruptcy, the one debt, the one creditor that's always protected, and it's in the football rules, is footballers. They always get paid. Whether that's right or wrong, it's in the rules. So for our players or any other club to defer their wages for 3 months, 2 months, 4 months, they're still going to get the money when all things kick off again. So I made it clear that our football club would obviously make that promise to them legally in writing. That's what would happen. They would get their money back when we're back in business. So that was a conversation. It was left there. I got on with what I do then the rest of the week, and my partner's the same. You know, we've got other stuff as well going on, as well as at the football club, dealing with our finance director, making sure financially the club's in a good place for the next few months for when we get back in business. And then obviously today that broke. So obviously a player spoke to an agent decided to leak that to a reporter. The reporter wanted to write a big article about it. Well, listen, if you're the reporter listening to this, and I'm sure you are, because you probably started following me on Twitter after today, I'm sorry to break your story and put it out there, but now's not the time to be writing that kind of shite. For me, why write that article? What are you trying to do? Do you want to send a message to my fans? And I have a lot of fans who are in the older group right now who are most vulnerable, sitting at home. They're going to read articles about our club's in trouble. We can't pay our player wages. We've asked them to defer wages. It's wrong. Think about it morally. It's the wrong article to write. Give it a rest. Yeah, we're all in isolation. I get you're bored shitless. You're looking at things to do. Don't go down that road. So that's the truth. Where am I with player wage deferment? I think it's going to happen. Players are going to realize it's got to happen. So we're meant to be a football family. We're meant to be in this together. We're going to get to the end of this. We're going to come through strong, but we can only do it together. We can't do it in separate camps. We can't do it where the players are on one side saying, hey, we want to be paid in full. You have to abide by our contracts. That's great. We will. All football clubs will. But there has to be some sense and common sense attached to it as well. So that's where I feel on that. I'm going to leave it alone. As of now, our players have not got any deferred wages. Everyone's getting paid in full. We have not dismissed or fired any of our employees. Everyone's looking at the furlough process. Our club, like many other clubs, are looking at it because we have to. It still means we will have our employees. It still means when we're back in business, they're all fully contracted to our club and they're employed by our club. But, excuse me, it's something in my throat. It's not what everyone's thinking. But if our employees, or if there's anyone out there thinking, oh my God, this furlough process means that's not what happens. We're all doing our best at the moment to protect the football club and make sure this great institution that's been around over 75 years is still in business when we resume in a couple of months or in 3 months or whatever it may be, because we will resume. So most importantly, as owners, we've come together and we have to make the harsh and tough decisions. Some are horrible to make and you've got to make them, but that's just the way it is. But I promise you this, everybody who was working for our club before this happened will still be working for our club after this happens. And we will actually get everyone paid that if in the event we defer money, they're going to get paid. That includes suppliers. That includes everybody involved. So we're a community club. We've got to do our best for the community. So they're the tough things we have to talk about at the moment. That's life as we know it today in the era of the coronavirus. The next thing I want to talk about is the EFL and the Premier League. I listened to Simon Jordan's show on TalkSport on Sunday. You know, everyone loves to think me and him have an issue with each other. We don't. I think he's brilliant at what he does. I love the way he's recreated a new career for himself. And kudos to him. And he spoke about the football family. He was a bit sarky about it, but he did suggest about all the money in the Premier League and the players and taking a certain percentage of player wages and putting that back into the leagues. Look, here's the reality. We in the Football League need help, and we're going to need help. It's just help. But it's help that if we get it, we're going to pay it back. That's the beauty. And that's what I've been suggesting from minute one. This isn't a bailout from the government. We don't want a government bailout. We don't want a bailout from the Premier League and from the EFL. What we want is help. And if all the Premier League comes together and decides, look, we're going to come up with a fund of money, we're going to take a percentage of the players in the Premier League as well money, and we're going to put this money to work, and we're going to lend it being the operative word, not give it, lend it to the Football League, that can work. That's going to save clubs. That's going to keep clubs in business. That's really important. Those football clubs employ thousands of employees across the 72 clubs. So if you're a player earning 100 grand a week and they take 20% of your wages per se, and that's for basically, say, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or whatever else, that money's then used to go into the Football League. Guess what's going to happen? You're going to get your money back, but you're probably also going to get interest on your money. And let's say they did this and raised 100 million or 200 million to make sure the football clubs are back in business when life resumes and the season continues. They put a 5% carrot on it. They put an interest charge on it. Like anything else, you go to the bank, you pay interest, probably not as high as 5%. But if most football clubs are offered a loan of £1 million right now, and it's 5% to repay it, and the repayment terms are over 3-4 years or 3 seasons, we can do that. If we all get some form of help right now, and part of that help condition is on, we have to cut our budget by X amount of percent next year, year 2, year 3, year 4 to pay it back. We get in line. We'll sign up for that and we'll all do that. So if Peterborough United get £1 million from a Premier League relief fund that's put together with the EFL and the players, and we have to pay every year £200,000 back plus interest or whatever else, we'll sign 2 less players next year. We'll make sure that we talk about financial fair play and financial control and salary caps. We'll make sure, as will the EFL, that we can sign players and our budget's in place that we can pay back that loan. Because that'll be, if someone helps you out, the first thing you want to do when you're back on your feet is pay them back. If you don't, you're a scumbag. And I'm telling you right now, we as football clubs, if we come together and we do this and we come up with a relief package, we will pay the money back. I said it before. The other thing I'd said was about the Sky money, the TV deal, the 5-year deal that we signed that starts next year. Let's factor year 4 or 5 of the money. Let's bring it forward. Let's add it to the pot. One thing you've known, and I've seen the stimulus bill here in America and everybody fighting on the left and on the right, and I think everyone on the left wanted windmills and everything else put in, typical of the world we live in nowadays. And everyone on the right obviously wanted people's jobs protected and people going back to work when they can and having their mortgages paid. The UK's done the same with the furlough process. This is nobody's fault what's happened. But the one thing it's going to do is it's going to have a lot of casualties. It's not just the people who are dying from this horrible disease and the mortality rates we see. It's going to be also businesses, football clubs, and football clubs are a big part of business in the UK. Call them a small business, mid business, whatever you want. We employ hundreds of people. So if we're in this together truly, we're all going to need some sort of relief, and we're going to need a helping hand. And it's really important to help each other at this moment in time. So all I'm suggesting is let's look at it, and let's call it what it is. It's not a bailout, it's a loan. Because whatever we borrow, we're going to pay back. And if we pay it back with interest, it means all the players who've stepped forward and sign up for it in the Premier League on big money and help out their neighbours know they're going to get the money back and know they're going to make a few quid. That's a perfect way of looking at it. I saw the Bundesliga. I think they donated 20, 30 million quid to the lower league clubs. I love that. Times like this, you see the best of people and you see the worst of people. I've experienced that myself through this coronavirus thing. And it's amazing when you see the spirit of people, the people who aren't hiding behind their chairs and want to go out in the front lines, and they want to come up with suggestions and they want to keep battling. So that's where I am at the EFL and the Premier League. I'm very respectful. I'm pushing my points all the time. I'll continue pushing my points to Rick Parry and co at the EFL because I think it's important we keep communicating as football clubs. And I'll keep banging the drum on all these social media avenues and in these podcasts because the fans need to know. We want to make sure there's life after coronavirus. We want to make sure that the integrity of our league's protected and we finish this season. We want to make sure that we as football clubs have the financial help to get through this. So I'm going to take a break. I'll be back in a second. And we're going to talk about the rules, some of the idiots out there who aren't following them. And we're going to talk about life during this pandemic. Welcome back. So we've covered player wages, EFL, Premier League ideas, non-league voiding of their leagues today. Sad news. Let's talk about life during this pandemic. Let's talk about how you're reacting to it, because you've got two trains of thought. You've got one side is just complete panic, stuck to the news all day. Armageddon. We're not coming out of this. The world is ending. I've even got a pal of mine, sorry for calling you out on this, Josh, who won't take food delivery from anyone. He's so terrified of anything getting in his front door. His missus is having kittens and canaries, but she doesn't cook. So they've turned on the oven for the first time in like 19 years. She's obviously using YouTube to get instructions on that. Sorry, Em, call out to you there. And then you got the other side to it as well, where you got people who are trying to remain positive, trying to see light at the end of the tunnel, trying to understand that life will go back to normal. People are going to suffer and die through this, but we all know that we will come through this. We know that whether it's through a vaccine, a cure, stemming the flow, we're all in isolation. We're doing our bit. Florida's gone into isolation by, I think, 11 o'clock tonight. But myself and my missus and our kids, we've been pretty much doing it the last week and a half since we got home from our holiday. I haven't seen my own 70-odd-year-old dad. I'll be making sure that he's getting his groceries, keeping safe. He's got times he can go to the supermarket during the daytime. When I've had to go out, I've actually, believe it or not, worn gloves and stayed, appropriate distance from people. So we're all doing our bit. It's happening in the UK now. And what's infuriating is seeing people who don't follow the rules, particularly a lot of younger people. I mean, this is the generation we're meant to fight for the fucking climate for. They're out every chance to get to picket, looking for something for nothing. Some of them, not all of them. And now they won't follow the rules. I'm seeing videos of people licking poles on tubes, coughing and spluttering and making a joke about it near older people. One idiot was licking a toilet bowl the other day who ended up getting coronavirus. So, if you're in that camp and you're not taking this serious, you're not following the rules that are in place right now, what the fuck is the matter with you? Like, seriously, look in the mirror. What is the matter with you? And if I'm on a tube and I see somebody pulling that crap or licking the pole that people hang on to or coughing near someone, I'd end up in jail. I'd knock them flat out. I don't get it. That's why I was watching that video. I was thinking, I'm waiting for someone to go over and knock this fucker off his feet for pulling that crap. So, let's do this. Let's be respectful. Let's follow the procedures. Let's stem the flow. Let's do what they're asking us to do. Let's give support to the NHS, to the hospital workers, to the people, the volunteers. They're doing the same in the States. Let's do anything we can for these people because they're the ones in the front lines dealing with this. They're the ones who are going to get us out of this. And we will get out of it. But Jesus Christ, can we be respectful? Can we at least follow the rules that are in place? If we as a society can't do this now, when are we ever going to do this? And we follow it. We see where we are in 2 weeks. We see when we come out of isolation. If we beat this thing, if we knock it down, like we've seen in some other areas of the world, whether it be South Korea or even China, who started all of this, where it started, should I say, and they're now bringing out promising numbers. If we can do this, life can get back to normal. All right? That's life will find a way. So at least for now, look, For all the doom mongers out there and who think this is the end of the world, in my opinion, when the testing, and they're talking now in the UK about having a 15-minute test, which would be unbelievable if that happened. Not that you want to believe a lot of the news nowadays, but if that did happen per se, and the testing gets expanded, and they do test 1 million people, 2 million people, and you start seeing the real rates, the percentages of infections, you start seeing the real mortality rates, maybe we can start thinking about this in an intelligent way. Maybe when we do start going back to normal forms of life, we can keep the hotbedded areas in a certain isolation period. We can look after the people most vulnerable, but we're not there yet. Let's give it time. Okay, don't give up hope. For those who are sitting at home worried about paying their bills and there's no future and there's no light at the end of the tunnel, there will be. There will be. You'll come out of this. Okay, stay strong. All right, stay strong through this. We'll come out of this. We'll come out of this together. All right. The one thing I know about life is, and the things we've seen in our short lives, and we haven't seen anything like this obviously before, is that human spirit is unbelievable. The resolve to survive is unbelievable. Now, the flip side to that is, in times like this, and I said this to my missus as we were drinking last night, because obviously I'm sure most parents with 3 kids out there are doing that in the evenings or having gone through a bottle of wine. Very little else to do, bar a few minutes of entertainment. So while we were sitting there, I was saying, times like this, you see the worst of people and you see the best of people. It's a real eye-opener, and actually it's a real leveler. And for those out there who are showing their best, I commend you. For those out there who are showing your worst, well, all I can say to you is don't be a selfish piece of shit. There are other people to consider, all right? And when we come through this, your true colours are being shown. You don't want to be that person. Now's not the time. I get the logic in some people that they want to be, what's the right way of describing this, pragmatic in their approach to this. But at the end of the day, if you're on a lifeboat, you want to make sure everyone has food and water. You don't want to be a person in the corner who's hoarding everything. So it depends which camp you're in. I'm in the positive side of the camp, where I'm always thinking, we'll come through this. I thought of this back in 2008. Of anything that's ever happened in my lifetime, and we haven't seen something like this. I've always been positive minded. I don't want to change who I am. I have to be like that. Some people will hate me for being like that on Twitter and talking about football resuming because there's more important things going on. But that's just the way I'm built. I can't be that person that says, let's just give up on everything. Let's just lock our doors. Let's just completely give up on life, and we're not going to get back to normal, and football's not going to be played for 2 years. That's just impossible. It's not going to happen. So I've got to look at it the other way, and I've got to prepare for it the other way as well, and I've got to prepare for what comes after. I want my kids back in school. I want my football club playing football games. I want people safe. I don't want to see people dying. So I have to believe that's all going to happen. I have to believe it's going to happen in weeks and months and not years. So I want to be in that camp. I do know this, all the 20 pounds I lost in weight in January has been put back on. I do know this, my sex life is healthier. I'm definitely drinking more alcohol. I'm actually being pretty patient with my kids. I'm reading a lot more. So we're using the time right now, obviously, to do things that we have maybe had a chance to do before. Maybe some people should look at this as this is your holiday. Instead of taking 2 weeks in the summer, right now you're taking it now. And I do know when we come out of this, it's going to be exciting for everybody. People will be bursting at the seams. Life will explode. Businesses will explode. Football stadiums will be full. It'll be incredible. And that's what I was saying, what happens with life after the virus? And there is going to be life after this virus passes. So again, I'm going to reiterate, please follow the rules. Please follow the mandates in place. Let's be responsible and let's do this for each other. I spoke to 50-odd posh fans over the age of 65 yesterday on a Zoom call. They were brilliant. They were in high spirits. Some of them were talking about the war. Some of them were talking about their generation and what they did, and they couldn't believe what the younger generation were doing, some of them right now. So, I'm really disappointed when I hear that, and God bless them. They were all so positive, and they were all with me in the train of thought that we're going to come out of this, and we're going to come out of this quickly. So I'm going to talk about sports back on, because that's something that definitely is going to give us all a lift. And that's even for those, if we can't get out and watch it. Let's say we go back to playing in June. We're talking about 9 weeks from now. And let's say we've stemmed the flow. And let's say the decision's made at the start, look, we're going to have to play behind closed doors. We're going to have to play some games, and we're going to have to stream the games back to those most vulnerable, or we're going to have to stream it to everybody. Isn't that going to give everyone a big pep in their step? Isn't it going to give everyone a lift? Don't we want to see sport on TV? I'm sure everyone's binge watching Netflix. Don't we want to see live sport again? That's what we live for. So I'm of the mind that let's say in 8-9 weeks' time we stem the flow. Let's say there is this 15-minute test. Can't we ensure that the players, the staff that are going to play behind closed doors are tested? If tests are widespread available every time we play, make sure there's no continuous spread of the virus, or we're not basically spreading it amongst each other in the football world when we're back playing, and we can get sports back on, and we can play behind closed doors, and we can finish off our seasons. Wouldn't it be glorious, particularly if there's some sort of a semi-lockdown still on, where you could go to work but you can't go out to sporting events or be in large crowds, at that point? Wouldn't it be great to have that on TV for everyone? So that's something I want to see the EFL and the Premier League encourage as regards to, if they can't play with crowds, let's get it done behind closed doors. Let's give everyone something to watch fresh on TV. And you know what? Maybe we might go the other way. If we play some of the fixtures in June and then the rest towards the end of June, start of July with the summer here, we might be able to get back out and watching crowds again, particularly if the mortality rates have dropped and the testing rates have risen, and obviously more vaccines have come in, more medication. The NHS has got the right amount of ventilators and support. There might be the time that, we're back to work, life is going to go on, and we're going to look at this in the rearview mirror and stare it down and defeat it. So that's the way I've got to look forward to, and that's why I say life after the virus, because there's definitely going to be life after this, and we're going to explode into life. Well, I am personally anyway, particularly when I get to watch a football game. And then what are we going to, what about the rest of you? I'd love to hear your thoughts. I've said this, obviously, I've got the podcast going out now. This is episode 2. I've spoke about quite a lot today. I'd love to hear your thoughts. You can drop me a line on Twitter, on Facebook, and any social media medium. I've got YouTube recording right now, so I'll post this out as a video as well. Probably looking like an idiot here while I'm filming this podcast. I'm definitely going to have guests in my next episode. I'm going to do a segment with Barry Fry. I'm going to do a segment with my gaffer. I'm going to do a segment with somebody related to business. What I will say to you out there right now is that I know you're probably worried about, how do you get back to paying your bills? What about your job when you get back? The way the governments around the world are getting it together, and their bailout reliefs and their stimulus, is they want life back to normal as quick as possible. It's not going to be as bad as some of you think. I know people are hoarding stuff. I know people are in fear. Some really, really sane, intelligent people are making daft decisions right now based on that fear. Now's the time to keep a calm, level head. Now's the time to take the isolation period for what it is. Hug your loved ones, read some books, watch some more TV. Let's see where we are when we come out of it. For right now, I'm going to log off. I've bored you all long enough. I hope you've enjoyed the podcast today and the various subjects I've discussed. Sport will go on. Football will go on. We will be back in business, hopefully sooner or later. Maybe by episode 7 or 8, we'll be watching live games again. Thank you for listening. Take care. God bless all of you.